Okie dokie, folks, and welcome to Monday Night Shaw. And on this week's episode, returning to the show, this is the second time I've had this person on the show, but he's recently seen a change of scenery. So please welcome back to the show, T.Y. Jackson. T.Y., how are you, brother?
Good. How are you? Nice to be back, finally, after all this time.
Yeah. The last time you were on the show, you were still with MPW, and now you've come and you've joined us over in RCW.
Yeah, it's crazy how, when's the last time we did the show? It was probably like a year and a half ago, I think, right? Just before, I think, all the lockdowns and stuff started, right?
Yeah, it was a while ago, for sure.
Yeah,
I think
it's crazy.
It was right about the time when KB6 came over, because I think he had just come over, and I think I asked you about it, and it was just kind of like one of those things where you were like, oh yeah, he left, and I wish him the best or whatever, and then he came on my show, and I asked him about it, and we ended up covering it for the entire show. I hope your departure is not quite as dramatic as his, but
No.
You have left MPW and come to RCW. Can you give us an explanation of why?
Yeah, it's like you said. I don't think it's going to be very as exciting as KB6 was. But to be honest, for me, it was just it was one of those things where I just needed a change of scenery. I needed some new people to work with, some new faces, essentially to get in there with, and so it's nothing too exciting. It's just kind of made the decision that I think it's time for me to move on, and I think every wrestler has that feeling, and I'm sure you've also, you know what I'm talking about. You have this feeling that maybe it's time for you to move on. So that's what it was for me. I just had that feeling to move on, and decided to come over to RCW. So.
Fair
Not
enough.
very exciting.
I mean, I've always liked being in RCW and stuff, but I've definitely wanted to venture out and do other wrestle in other areas of Canada and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. And that was essentially the mindset for me as well too. Being there, there was a lot of people that I got to wrestle, a lot of things I got to do, and I was very grateful for my time there. I had a lot of fun. But I was just looking at the wrestling scene, and I was like, man, RCW is just on fire right now. With all the different people coming in and the different types of matches, and I started getting excited thinking about the various different people I can start wrestling with and feuding with and programming with. So
just the frequency of shows, it's sometimes there's 3 shows a week,
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
MPW
that's great
runs
for us.
1 show a month usually, so I can understand why. If you would want to get more ring time, that you would have to go where that's being offered.
Absolutely. And the most valuable experience is being in the ring, right? So being in the ring in front of a crowd, the more you can do that, the more experience you get and the better you get. So that was definitely probably one of the biggest reasons as well, being able to wrestle every week. And now thinking about it, being here for how long now? I think it's about maybe over a month or so. Being with RCW, I don't think I can ever go back to wrestling once a month ever again. So, so it's definitely been it's been a good experience. Though I've had a lot of fun so far, and I feel I've done a lot. My time now with RCW, my short time. So,
yeah, you kind of came in and then you teamed up with KB6, and then immediately turned on him, and then now KB6 is gone. He's I think he's in Mexico.
Yeah, I beat him in a loser leaves RCW, and then he left to Mexico. So I achieved what I wanted, I guess, in that end. But yeah, no, I think I just wanted one of the main things I wanted to do when I first came to RCW was finish up that loose end I had with KB6, and we touched on it earlier. We don't have to go back into it. There's a whole podcast if you want to get into that with KB6. But that was kind of my first target coming into RCW, and even when I was with Monster Pro, every time I would come to RCW and do any spot shows or any talent shows, I would immediately go for KB6. That was my goal to kind of get my revenge. Yeah. So it was a no-brainer for me to go for KB6 immediately and make him think that we're still friends and send him out of the country. So I'm very glad about that.
Now that he's kind of out of the picture, is there? I mean, you've been wrestling with Danny Havoc quite a bit too, who's also like an MPW guy, who's sort of
Danny Evans, yeah.
Yeah, why did I say Danny Havoc? That's a different guy. Danny Evans. Yeah. You've been wrestling with Danny Evans. who's also like he came over from MPW sort of around the same time you did. So once you start wrestling with like actual like RCW wrestlers, who are you like looking forward to wrestling the most?
Oh, there's so many. I do want to preface though.
And I'm not trying to say that Danny Evans is not an actual RCW wrestler. Danny Havoc is not, but Danny Evans is an actual RCW wrestler. But as far as like fresh faces who you haven't crossed the ring with before in MPW.
Absolutely. So I actually want to make a point there. Like, interesting enough, me and Danny Evans have actually never had matches together since we came to RCW. So, like, while I was in, so I was in the same promotion with him for probably like 2 years, maybe, or 3 years. I never wrestled him, not even once. So it was also a fresh face as well to kind of wrestle somebody that I've known for so long and never got to be in the ring with. So, that this has been fun. But yeah, there's so many different people in the locker room, and like, you know, I had matches with Heavy Metal, MRB, in Calgary, which was really fun.
Solid.
And there's just been so many people. Like, I want to get in the ring with you. I want to get in with, like, start doing some, you know, more single stuff with everybody. Like, I'm just so open to be in the ring with everybody there, because, you know, the more different people you wrestle, the more experience you get, and you learn different stuff about yourself, and you learn different stuff about your opponent. So I'm very much open to kind of getting in there with everybody there. So I can't give you an answer specifically, but
well, I mean, that's fair. I mean, you kind of, from what I heard you when you last time you were on the show, I think you even told me you like over at the MPW training facility. You were one of the guys that was like doing a lot of the training for people, and it kind of struck me as a little odd because you're like you've only been wrestling for like what, like 4 years.
Mm-hmm. 4 years, yeah.
Yeah, and now like it seems like there's a lot of guys who are in RCW who have much more veteran, you know, status, and you're going to learn a lot from those guys, you know, and you're not going to be like expected to try and guide people while you're still learning yourself. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah, and that was also a consideration I had too when I was leaving, because, you know, I got to a place where I was kind of complacent there, and I was, you know, just really.
And I'm not trying to bury them or you or whatever. I mean, you know, like.
Yeah, no. I totally understand. Yeah, exactly. But like you're making a good point there, where like, you know, it's just inevitable. I think it's in everything you do, not even in wrestling, but any like genre of entertainment or any field that you're in, you have to, you know, work with more experienced people to get better, and that's just a given. So that was absolutely the thing that I thought about as well, and I'm very glad about that. There's different people there I can get in with that are way better than me. So yeah.
Pardon me, and I didn't mean to imply that anyone was better than you, just that people have more experience and like you know, when you've been in, when you have the knowledge that comes with being in 1,000 matches over the knowledge that comes with being in like 100 matches, like the person that's more knowledgeable, just like there's going to be some value that they can offer to the person that has had fewer matches. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. I definitely agree with that. So,
yeah. Right on. As far as other things go, I know that you've also done some work with Canadian Wrestling Elite pretty recently.
Yeah, recently. So yeah, I actually got into doing some stuff with CWE as well. And that was around the time just before I left Monster Pro, and I was doing a lot of their St. Albert shows. I was down there in Red Deer for a show, and that was also a kind of a different experience there as well, getting the CWE experience. I mean, you were there for a lot of them, and it's a different kind of animal there. They go hard, they go all the time, and you know, show after show after show, and you know, it's cool to be in front of different crowds, and it's cool to be in locker rooms with different people and stuff, and seeing some familiar faces and also seeing some fresh faces and getting to meet some people. So that's always that was very fun that time.
Yeah, I enjoy myself every time I've wrestled for them. I am amazed at like how quickly everything goes down. Like you show up and the ring is like set up like very fast. Everything is up and down like fast.
Yeah. when you're
You know
doing
what
it
I
so
mean?
many times a week, and it's you're going to the next town the next day, you got to get efficient with that stuff. Or you're gonna
Yeah.
start falling behind. So yeah.
And I mean, I'll be honest, I only did like, I think 3 days in a row at the most.
Hmm.
But
And you probably felt it too, hey?
um, it wasn't necessarily all that bad. I
Hmm.
mean, there's been times where I've been in the ring more than 3 times in a row, but just not necessarily on shows. You know,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
like for sure. There's been times where I've like there's been times I've trained for 5 days and then wrestled for two, and then
Hmm.
yeah. But I don't seem to do that quite as often as I used to. What about has there been any other like destinations that are on the forefront for you? Is there anything that you're looking to get involved in and be a part of, or like what is your goals now that you're in RCW? Like, do you want to go to places outside of RCW, or like
Hmm.
w-
Yeah, yeah. Like
yeah.
I think for me right now, I think it's just try to get more experience and trying to get out there and, um, you know, looking at the amount of shows that RCW runs and the amount of different locations you get to go to and stuff like that. It's amazing. But I think everybody wants to kind of go out and branch out and wrestle in different places. And BC is definitely an area that I wanted to go to and that I've been thinking about as well. But even like Eastern Canada as well. Like you look at Ontario and stuff, like they have a lot of great promotions down there as well too. And I'm originally from Ontario as well, so never actually got to wrestle there before, so being able to wrestle down in my home province would be great for me too. So yeah, just trying to get everywhere and do as much as possible. And the fact that we're wrestling weekly and doing shows all the time is good because you get to the more times you're out there, the more chances you have that people look at you and you can branch out more. So yeah, I think that's the gist of it, I would say.
Yeah, it's exciting, and it definitely like you can definitely build up a number of matches for sure, which is
Absolutely, yeah.
pretty fun. Uh,
Yeah, for sure.
I was going to ask you about your character because like
Mhm.
you're like a bad guy wrestler now. Were you a bad guy wrestler in MPW, or were you always
No,
baby face?
no, no. So in Monster Pro, I was always a babyface. For my 4 years there, I was a face. And every time I did a spot show or some outside show, I would always make a point to wrestle heel, because I wanted to get that heel experience. There was times in MPW where I was trying to lean towards the heel kind of persona, but I guess it just never worked out, and circumstances kind of didn't work there. So I always envisioned myself as a heel, and I had like 4 years to kind of sit down and kind of make this concoction of ideas and things that I wanted to do. And when I did come to RCW, and I did make a point when I came here as well too that I did want to work as a heel because it's a different. I felt like if I'm going to a different promotion, I might as well do something fresh and not pull the same thing I'm doing from that promotion, just bring it over here in front of in a different ring in front of a different audience. So kind of wanted to stand out and come in with a bang. So I am
Yeah.
a bad guy here in RCW.
And so far, how are you liking being a heel compared to having been a babyface?
So surprisingly, like when people used to ask me this question, I always used to say, "Oh, like I always like being a heel better." If I had to compare the two, I would say the heel is still for me. It's just more fun. I think you know the saying that it's always easier to make people hate you than people like you. So, and I feel you have more kind of free reign as a heel to kind of do some things and get away with some things that a babyface can't. But surprisingly, like throughout my 4 years of being like a face in MPW, I just started to really enjoy being a babyface, and I think this is a human. It's human nature just to have people, I guess, like you and people cheer for you and stuff like that. So, towards the end there, like I really started enjoying being a face and interacting with the crowd and seeing kids get excited and stuff like that. That's always fun. But just there's nothing like being a heel. There's nothing like just being excuse my language, an asshole. So it's the best. It's the best. So I'm very much enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So
I done
You
it
know?
like a couple of times, and they were fun, but they're definitely like the last time I did it, it was a complete disaster.
Yeah.
It was not my fault. Like
Yeah.
it didn't have much to do with the fact of anything I did, but it was not a good match and whatnot. But
Hmm.
I did enjoy, like I do enjoy being a heel every once in a blue moon, but I really don't think that my character is like suited for that. So
Yeah, I mean, your character is one of those characters as well that it's just, as soon as you come out, it's something that the kids cheer for, and it's something that people like. So I mean, I totally get where you're coming from. But yeah, like I also think that like when you like, for example, like as a Canadian Goose, right?
mhm.
Like, have you ever like done any heel work or anything outside of the Goose character before? I don't think you have, right?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay, you
I
have.
wrestled a couple of matches under a completely different like gimmick where I wore a
Oh, were you
mask.
heel or face?
I was a heel.
Okay, so how was that compared to the Goose character as a heel?
I mean, it was okay. It was like I was wearing a mask and I was trying to disguise who I was. I was not doing a fantastic job, and
Okay,
I
fair enough.
wrestled. I did it twice. I wrestled once. I wrestled Steven Styles, and then the other time
Okay.
I wrestled Dean Richter, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, it was fun both times. I got to do a promo in the match against Steven Styles,
Okay.
which was a lot of fun. So like, yeah, the promo was a lot of fun, and then like just the whole experience was fun. It just I don't know. We just never did it again, and I don't know. I hold it off in my back pocket as something I might pull out one day and just do again for the hell of it, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure you'll have fun with it. It's
Yeah,
a lot of fun. Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
I also, I don't want to stop being the Canadian Goose because I enjoy doing that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
What about who are like some of your influences as like a bad guy wrestler? Like when you're out there like trying to channel like
Hmm.
being like a heel, like who are some guys or like what are some thoughts that run through your mind that give you the fuel to pull that off?
It's a great question. I think like for me at least, like when I wrestle as a hero, I'm very loudmouth and I'm very obnoxious. And I think for me, it's almost me just channeling you know, I think when you channel like your everyday frustrations, just in life in general, I think if you can channel those into your character, I think that kind of makes it more authentic. You kind of have to pick your spots and kind of when to be mouthy and when to be like ruthless and aggressive and stuff like that. So I think for me, it's just honestly thinking about like the things that I hate and trying to be it. I think that's
Yeah.
the best way to put it. Like whatever I despise in life, or if I seen a character in a movie or something that just does some obnoxious stuff and that I don't like, I'm like, huh, that would be a great thing to do. But I don't think I've channeled anybody in specific. But I think I'll probably the more heel work I do, I think the more I'm going to start to see maybe shades of certain people that I grew up watching and stuff that I just haven't realized yet. So, but yeah.
So you just try to be unlikable in general. Like I think that would be hard for you because like I don't know I don't like interact with you like super regularly or anything.
Uh-huh.
But every time I
Yeah.
have seen you, you've always been like the nicest guy. Like
Yeah. Well, yeah.
you
Well, I
don't
appreciate
strike
that.
me as a guy that would be like heelish. Like there's guys in the locker room who you're like, okay, yeah, I can see why that guy's a heel. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what makes it a bigger shock as well too. Especially people, and there's a few people I've seen in the audience as well in RCW who are crossovers and who have been to MPW shows and stuff, and like I could tell that they're like looking at me and they just can't believe that what I'm doing simply because I was such a good guy for such a long time, and the babyface character that I played was essentially just myself, just playing my normal self and trying to be as genuine as possible. But I think it's easier when you don't have. I think it's easier to be a heel when it's not your personality, and this is just me saying it, because then you can be really over the top and trying new things, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But like, for me, I can kind of just like try stuff and throw stuff at the wall and see if it works, and if it doesn't work, well, I won't try it again. But yeah, I think that is a good point there. But for me, it's just kind of just comes natural. I'm like, you know what? Let's just be obnoxious as possible and see what happens.
I like it, buddy.
Yeah.
When I first became like the ring announcer, the other guy who was ring announcing at the time, he told me, he was like, "Oh yeah, well make sure you don't outshine the wrestlers out there, you know." So I'd be like real timid with my performance and stuff, and I did that for the first couple, and just realized, okay, that's not working, you know. I'm going to give it like my all, and if they tell me to rein it back, that's better than them having to tell me to bring it up, you know. So
yeah,
I can
at least the personality's there, right? So
Yeah.
if you have it, you just gotta like adjust it when necessary, right?
Yeah. Have you ever had to like rein it in, and have you ever like crossed the line or anything?
Not that I know of.
Have you ever like made
I mean,
any children cry or anything like that? Like,
so recently,
and
I've
I'm not
been,
saying that's actually crossing the line, but like
Yeah.
from a modern standard, you know what I mean?
No, I think not that I know of, to be honest. I mean, like messing with kids is always fun for me. Just because kids they react so innocently and then they're so honest and truthful. So, but like, I love to go like recently I've been going around and just like throwing like scratching my beard and just like pretending to throw dandruff on kids. And that's always it's some weird thing that I've just been doing for like whenever I'm a heel, and sometimes I'm like maybe I shouldn't have done that because their parents are watching them, and I'm like I don't know if but like they usually eat it up and stuff. So but yeah, just maybe things like that. But like I try not to like get in their face as much, but I like a little banter back and forth, and it's always fun. So. But yeah, so if you ever do see me throw dandruff at children, it's not really dandruff, I'm just I'm just trying to just as much as possible. Yeah.
Dandruff from your beard too. That's
Yeah, like I scratch it as much as like I'll sit there and like scratch it for like 30 seconds and scratch it and scratch it and scratch it, and then I'll just like look at my hand and just like throw it at the kid. And their immediate reaction is like, "What?" But then they start to boo it. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Don't worry, folks. He actually does use Head and Shoulders on his facial
Absolutely.
hair. So there's
I have
no
a nice
dandruff in there.
there's no actual
Nice
dandruff. I have a nice
raw
set of hair.
heel, you know.
It is washed, it is clean, but so that's maybe the only time where I felt like maybe did I cross the line there, but I'm fine, so I guess it all worked out.
I did one match in Edmonton where I was a heel. I was wrestling against Coda the night of the apocalypse. And so I just was like by default the heel, so they kind of sent me out there, cut a heel promo, and then I wrestled him, and the next week I was back to being a babyface. It was kind of weird. But I did get told by Chris Irishman not to mess with people's food because I walked by one guy who was sitting there eating his French fries, and I like knocked the bottom of his plate, so the fries flew off the plate.
Oh God, they probably weren't happy about that, eh?
No. I mean, I was like, oh, I'm a bad guy. This is like, I think I stole a fry off of him first, and then I like.
That's amazing.
Flick the rest. Yeah, and they told me not to do that anymore. So I never did do it again. But
fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of fun to do that sort of heel antics and whatnot. But I also like I do love like just being the baby face and being the guy that's supposed to get cheered, and you get to go out there at the. It's not like, because like I would imagine if you're the heel and then you got to go out at intermission to try and sell your like gimmicks at the merch table or whatever, it might be kind of awkward, because like you don't want to be buddy to the people that you want to boo you during your match, but you also do want to sell your stuff so you can make money, like.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think there's ways of doing it. I think there's ways of staying in a character, I find, and still be able to sell your merch in a way. But I find like a lot of fans. I guess a lot of fans like when it's during intermission and stuff. I don't usually go out during intermission when I am heel, but every time that I have, they tend to kind of understand where I'm trying to go with the character and stuff like that. So I remember at the last Radway show, I think. At the end of the show, one of the kids was walking around getting autographs from like the wrestlers and stuff, and he comes up to me, and I was, I think I probably threw dandruff at him or something. But he came up to me, and his mom was standing there, and he was like wanting to like ask me for like an autograph, and but he was like, I don't know. He says he hates children and he hates kids. I don't know. And like part of me was like, oh, that's great that I got the character in. But I ended up signing it for him. But I was like, all right, like this is the one time, and I won't do it again.
I
Right?
wanted to hear that
Something
you
like
turned around and growled in his face and chased him away.
Yeah, I just started find more dandruff just to throw at him. Um, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that there's ways of going around it, but I definitely agree. Like it's much easier for the face to go out there and sell their merch and stuff. So
And another thing that you have had experience in doing both of is tag team wrestling and singles competition.
hmm
So,
yeah,
how do you like singles matches compared to tag team matches?
I mean, it's a great question. I mean, so I started off tag team wrestling for like the first maybe 2 years of my career was all tag team wrestling. Um, And then I don't think I found my stride in tag wrestling until I started wrestling with KB6 as a tag team. And once I started doing stuff with KB6, I think that's when I really started having fun with tag wrestling. Not that I never liked tag wrestling in the first place. I always enjoyed it. But I feel like with tag wrestling, you really have to like really gel with your tag partner, or you have to really have like be on the same page really for it to really come off well and for it to be fun. So when I was tagging with KB6, it was really fun, and we were kind of on the same page. We were rocking and rolling and stuff. But it's much easier to manage, I guess, your own stuff as a singles wrestler than it is as a tag team,
Hmm.
because trying to get four people on the same page is harder than getting two people. But I think tag team wrestling is very underappreciated, I think. And at least when I was in MPW with KB6, we made a point of really wanting to make tag team wrestling a part of the show and making it important. And did we do it? I Not for me to say, but I'd like to think that we tried as best as we can and we had a good run. But for me, I think right now singles wrestling has just been my focus. And which is why I came back and attacked KB6 immediately because I was like, I'm not doing this tag team stuff again. Um, it's just, yeah, I think the more, if you can get good at tag team wrestling and in singles wrestling, I think that's another asset there on your resume to say that you have. So they're two different kind of animals, but I mean, they're all wrestling at the end of the day, so you can make it work.
Yeah, 100%. I know that a lot of the guys that were over in MPW, I know that you said that you were involved in a little bit of the training and stuff, but a lot of the guys have other like backstage duties there, like some guys are like the guys that make the posters, and some guys are like the people that operate the websites. Did you
Mhm.
acquire any like backstage skills that are like on the peripheral to wrestling?
Not really, actually. To be
No.
honest, I don't think I really had any of those. But like you said, like I wouldn't consider myself a trainer at MPW. I wouldn't say I was that. But I definitely was there a lot in the ring working with people. So I guess maybe that was my kind of contribution behind the scenes, I guess, was helping out people. And not that I know everything, and I really don't. I'm also learning, but anything that I do know or anything that I can give or that I could give to the people there at the time starting out and stuff, that was kind of what I enjoyed doing. So maybe that was kind of my contribution there, just being at training all the time and trying to help out. So
I was just wondering too. What are a couple of your favorite matches that you have had? Did we go over that in the last podcast?
I think we did I think it was within like MPW, I think at the time. So maybe I can speak about some stuff I did at least in the month I've been with RCW because I've had a lot of,
Yeah,
I think I've had some fun there. Yeah.
why don't we talk about that and then maybe talk about like one or two of your final matches in MPW before you came here
Cool.
to RCW. Like, give us a little timeline of what's kind of been going on for you in the last year or so.
Cool. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess to start, say I was the provincial champion at Monster Pro for a while. I think I won that title in September of 2020. And I held it up until I think my last show, which was I think was it October? Maybe it was October this year. No, granted, there was lockdowns and stuff and pandemic, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend I had that title for a year and defended it all the time. Probably had like 4 defenses in that time. But yeah, I think my last match there was a ladder match. I think it was a Fatal 4-Way ladder match. It was me, Rich King, Blake Cannon, and the Sultan. And that was a really fun match. It was a very memorable match that I had. I had a sequence of match before that as well with Rich King and Lumberjack Larry, and those are 2 guys that I just always have fun being in the ring with, and they're very, very talented, like top guys there. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm stoked that Rich King came to RCW.
yeah, he's like great. He's amazing. He's one of a kind, and you know the matches that we had, and we had a little feud going into that ladder match, and that was probably one of the most fun matches I had, or a fun time as well I had at Monster Pro. But yeah, that ladder match, I went all out. You know, did as much as I could. Ladder bumps absolutely suck, but I did all I could, and you know that's when I lost the belt there, and then immediately a week after that, I was in RCW doing matches. That's when I was able to have matches with heavy metal, as I said, which was a really fun match as well too. And then I got to go down to Calgary and have that match with MRB, which is my first time wrestling in Calgary as well. Was against MRB, and that Calgary crowd was just amazing that night, and they support me well, so that was great. And now it's just kind of going to the feud with Danny, or I did the stuff with KB6 as well. We had a really, really good match, our Loser Leaves RCW match. I had a lot of fun there. It was a great kind of end and blow off to our kind of feud that's just been, you know, marinating, I would say, for like 3 years. And we finally got to have that match that we wanted to have, the match that we envisioned initially when we started our tag team. So I'm really glad we got to have that. And then I hope he's doing well down there in Mexico.
You guys never get to wrestle each other in MPW?
We did. We had one match, which is still up there as one of my favorite matches. With my match with KB6 in MPW just before he left, and that was kind of our first match that was going to lead into our feud. But that never happened because then he ended up coming to RCW. So,
Do things
we were
kinda
able
work
to.
differently out there. Like, does someone else like give you like put your match together for you, or?
No, not so. Nobody puts the match together for us. That's all in our control, and I, I hope at least in independent wrestling, there isn't people out there putting matches together for you, because that wouldn't be fun. But it's just, I guess the circumstances are different there. Within the ring, I would say it's the same. You know, you get to put your stuff together and stuff, but you know, I think here in RCW, at least from the experience I've had, you have much more freedom when it comes to putting together storylines and long-term storylines, and having them be consistent, and being able to finish it out and kind of have a plan and go with it. Back at MPW, I think it was more so like you would think you had a plan, and then something would happen and plans would change and you wouldn't be able to do it. And wrestling once a month as well is hard to have feuds, because I mean, wrestling weekly, you know, like me and Danny have been having this feud now, and you know it's going to be over in a month, you know, or a month, or 2 months, or however long it is.
Yeah.
But you get to get more matches out of that. But in MPW, when you're wrestling once a month, that's, you know, a feud can take a long time, and plans change within that time, so it's not really consistent. So yeah, I think that's kind of like the difference there. But yeah, I've just been having a lot of fun, and the stuff I'm doing with Danny as well now is great. You know, like I said, he's a guy that I never got to wrestle with in MPW, and we always talked about having some matches and stuff. So he was a no-brainer when I first got here to kind of check that off the bucket list. So.
Well, I'm glad you guys are getting a chance to wrestle each other now. Then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not even just wrestle, but have like a sequence of matches and have like a story that's, you know, consistent and stuff. And I think that's what we love wrestling, is the consistent stories and stuff. And the one-off matches are great in circumstances, but you know, you like to have something consistent.
Did I see that you guys are going to wrestle for the hardcore belt?
We are, and I wouldn't say I'm a hardcore person. He's a hardcore person. He heats that stuff up. Um, I'll do the occasional crazy thing. But I guess he has more of the advantage in this match, and I guess I gotta have to step up and kind of really prove that I can be hardcore too. I might not look like it, but
Well,
I can do some
you
hardcore
just
stuff.
finished telling me that you were in a ladder match in MPW. You probably did the hardcore weapons battle royal over there too, eh?
Yeah, but that was a match that I would get out as soon as possible. I wouldn't. I would not linger on in that match at all. I would
The
find
bell
myself on the
rings and
floor
you
very
like
early.
jump over the top rope.
I would find myself on the floor really early in those matches. I wonder why.
I hear ya. I hear ya. As soon as the first guy gets eliminated, you're like, "Oh shit, suicide dive time."
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, I don't mind like the chairs and like the ladders and stuff. Those are fine. But once I see like the barbed wire bats and the bats with nails on them, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe
Yeah.
not. Yeah, maybe
What
not
about
today. Maybe.
the glass tube? Have you ever seen one of those?
I haven't.
Were you there for when Vince Austin and Jason the Terrible wrestled and they used the glass tubes?
No, I didn't actually.
No. What about at the
No.
clandestine when Colton Kelly
I
and Sheik Shabazz and I can't remember the other fella's name to be honest with you, but it was a
Yeah.
three-way.
It was a three-way. Yeah, I remember watching it on the stream. Yeah,
Mhm.
like it's
Evan
it's
Adams, I
crazy.
believe his name is.
Evan Adams. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I was there at like earlier as well. I think it was a couple months or a month ago. So at Love as well, and there was a hardcore match there too. That I was like, holy crap! Like these guys are killing each other. And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
I'm not that guy, but maybe one day I'll muster up the courage to do one of those.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't have like a gimmick match against KV6.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't necessarily so it was a loser leaves town match, but we did get away with using weapons that match. So, we did. I guess it was considered a hardcore match, not really a hardcore, but no disqualification, I guess.
Okay, so like street fight type thing.
Basically a street fight, yeah. So I gave him a swanton, and I put the I put the trash can on his head, and I gave him a swanton like basically on his head, and
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
that was one way to send him off to Mexico. So
Is that your finishing move, the swanton?
I want to say it's a finisher. It's definitely one of my signatures. It's one of those moves that I just really. I guess I grew up a Jeff Hardy fan, and I really enjoyed seeing him doing the swanton and stuff, and the way he does it. And it was kind of one of the first moves that I really put into my back pocket there when I started wrestling. And it just kind of just became a staple in my matches now. So hopefully, my tailbone will be fine by the time I'm older, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, you got to be careful and watch out for your ankles too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, you have to be very
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah, for sure.
What are some other big top moves that you chose to be part of your repertoire, and some of the reason behind that? Like, do you bust out the twist of fate as well?
So I've been doing that recently. I guess the joke is to see how many Jeff Hardy moves I can try and do in a match. No, I'm kidding.
That'd be awesome,
I-
though. Like,
Yeah,
just start doing all the Jeff Hardy moves.
Yeah,
Grab his
Yeah.
ankles,
It's a-
pull, and then jump in and leg drop his balls.
yeah, on the nut shot. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. For me, I think so. A lot of my I guess my offense is more focused on really like strikes and stuff, and I use a lot of kicks, and I guess I've just always liked kicking. I enjoy kicking. I enjoy using my feet, I guess. So yeah, a lot of my stuff is like really kicks, whether it's like super kicks, so it's roundhouses. But my finisher is like the side kick that I saw Swerve Scott using in NXT at some point, and
Well, I saw one where you kind of like jump into the air beside the dude and then just like whip over and kick the guy in the face, and it was like, ow.
yeah.
Ow.
Yeah, that's the one I stole from. That's the one I actually stole from Isaiah Swerve Scott or Shane Strickland. So he does that. He used to do that move, and it's. I thought it was very innovative. I didn't see a lot of people using it, and I was like, well, I like using kicks, and I think when coming up with a finisher as well, if you come up with something that you can give to anybody, not having to pick anybody up or any of that. It's definitely an asset. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, they only need to be kneeling. That's perfect. Anybody can kneel. So it was a no-brainer for me to use that as a finisher. But yeah, like it's kind of just a mix, I would say, between like high flying and strikes and stuff like that. But I'm always trying to do different stuff. And I think the longer you wrestle and the more matches you do, the more you start to appreciate different types of moves and stuff. I was never really into giving slams. When I first started, I was never like a fan of like giving like body slams and stuff like that. But they started to slowly start to warm up to me the more I start to wrestle and start understanding psychology behind them and stuff. And being able to like do different moves as well, like maybe hit body slam and then hit something else right after it immediately or something like that is always just change it up and not always be the same thing. So I'm always trying to do different things and see what works. I guess throw things at the wall.
Solid. So, where do you get like the ideas from? Like, do you watch a lot of like modern wrestling, or do you go back and watch like classic wrestling? Where do you go when you're looking for new cool things to do in the ring?
Yeah, I think so. I think when I first started out, it was mostly just from the stuff that I've watched. Um, you know, but modern wrestling mostly is I mean, what's what I grew up on, to be honest. But there's always it's always cool because following those like Instagram pages, like there's always like they always put clips of different moves and stuff, and maybe a match I've never seen before, or like a person I've never heard of before, and just seeing stuff online as well. I think that's how a lot of wrestlers nowadays as well find a lot of their moves is just looking at moves online and stuff, and looking at maybe different promotions or different people doing stuff. But I find for me a lot of my offense and stuff that came from really training, just trying stuff in training, throwing stuff at the wall and maybe wrestling around and going with the flow and feeling stuff. And sometimes something connects and you're like, oh, that's cool. I might steal that. I might do that. And everything's been done, but when you come across something that you never knew existed and you're like, wow, this is cool. I might use this. So I think that's really the big benefit of training a lot as well too, is you just naturally start to find stuff. And I'm sure you know this from training as well too. Like sometimes things just come up that you never expected, and you're like, yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna use that. So
Yeah, I mean, I know that like a lot of time, like I'll be there and then Metal will just be like, okay, chain around with whoever, right? Like he'll chain around with me or chain around with Zoe or chain around with Michael, and they end up putting me in holds I've never been in before, and you just have to figure out how to get out of it, you know?
hmm
And it's all like, I mean, it's safe, right? They're not shooting like crazy pile drivers on you or anything. um but like yeah, it's like it's an interesting like how you have to like adapt to the situation. And then like I like that because like you get put in all this crazy stuff, and you know that okay, even if you haven't been shown exactly how to get out of it, the technique is like that there's basics like to chain wrestling is you always are going to be turning in some direction or trying to circle around in some way or fashion. And then when you figure it out and it's just like, oh, nobody showed me that, you just figured it out, and no one got hurt or anything and it looked cool, then that's like a magical moment.
for sure. It teaches you that instinctual behavior as well too, just being able to like just not thinking about it, being able to do stuff. And for me, I think the same thing you were talking about, like when you're in those situations where you don't know what to do, I guess like I find for me a lot of time like logic likes to kick in. I'm like, okay, and what would, like, if you were in a real situation here, what would you do, right? And I find like wrestling, it always follows that pattern. Logically speaking, what would you do in this situation? And once you can kind of get that in your head, where to put your hands and stuff, or where to move or maneuver, or what parts of your body to protect and stuff like that, you start to become really instinctual at it. And then it doesn't matter who you're in the ring with, somebody you've never wrestled before, they put you with something you've never seen, you can just remember that, okay, well, how would I get out of this, and
Yeah.
you're just kind of used to it. So I definitely agree.
If you're out there and you're in some sort of a match and maybe things are not going according to plan, or maybe you guys just didn't come up with much of a plan, like
hmm
I've been to like there's been a couple of times where you just show up and the person's like, yeah, well, I'll see you out there, or we're just
hmm
gonna wrestle, or that kind of thing. And
hmm
having that ability like is definitely like paramount to that situation, because like you definitely like kind of like are like, oh boy, like it's a little anxiety inducing, but like once you're out there and you're making the magic, it's a lot of fun, you know.
It's a lot of fun, yeah. And I found my favorite matches that I've had are ones that were just like on the fly and stuff, and because you get to be creative, you get to think of situations and stuff on the fly that you might not necessarily have thought of at the time. But you just get to feel out the crowd as well, see how they're feeling, see if they're into certain things or if they're not into certain things, and then you can kind of like adjust and do things that that kind of get the crowd behind this person or get them to hate somebody. So it's I think that's when like the creative part of wrestlers come out, is when they don't have a plan that they're going behind, because once you kind of put a plan together and it's set in stone, then it's kind of hard to maneuver out of that. But it's very nerve-wracking. It's scary, but like once you pull it off, you're like, I get more satisfaction from a match that was loosely kind of planned out versus something that was like planned out to a T, I guess.
I mean, it is a nice skill to have too, for those situations where, okay, maybe everything is pretty much planned out, but like that doesn't guarantee that everything's going to go according to plan. Like I have definitely been in matches where, okay, things are planned out, but oh, somebody has missed their cue and they're not coming, and all right, we have to make a new plan here, fella. And I just look across the ring at the guy and like tap my arm, like, "Hey, watch out! I'm gonna clothesline you."
Yeah, exactly.
Like that has happened before. I remember
sure.
The first time it happened to me. I was in a tag match with it was me and Dead Zone against Vince Austin and Dante, and I was behind Dante, and somehow Dead Zone was supposed to come in or whatever, but he was outside on the floor, and he just completely missed on his cue or whatnot. It was just things happen when you're wrestling, right? He just didn't realize this was his time to come in, and so I was kind of like, well, I can't just stand here and not hit him. I'm looking like an idiot. I'm standing here waiting. So I got Dante from behind with a big like thump, and then I just looked across the ring at Vince Austin and tapped my arm like, "Hey, take a clothesline." And
Exactly.
that's what we did.
And that's something as well I had to learn as well too. Like when you first start out as well, it's very nerve wracking because you're thinking, oh, I hate to remember all these things, I hate to remember all these spots, I hate to be on exactly. But then for recently I've started to think like when you're in the ring there, your character really shouldn't be knowing what's going on, right?
Yeah.
You should like the character itself shouldn't know what's next. So if you can kind of put yourself in that position where like what's going to happen next, but your character doesn't, and you can portray that. Then it kind of makes it so that if something does go wrong in the match, then you're not standing there just like we've all had that moment where we stand there like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Especially when we're new and starting out and stuff like that. But I
kind of like you can sort of start to pick up on people's like body language and stuff. And don't get me wrong, it's always best to have like, if somebody's going to shoot you off the ropes with a spot, it's good to know what they told you to. But I've definitely they've done that to me, and I was like, holy fuck, I have no idea what he just said. Like I did not hear any of that, right?
Exactly.
But then you just have to pay attention to the guy's body language, and once in a while, like not even like 50% of the time, but like once in a small portion of the time, it just doesn't work out, and you like bump into the guy, and then you just like start fighting for like
go for that emergency DDT.
Like you'll just realize like what's going on, or the other person can realize that you're lost, and they start telling you what to do, as you're doing it. But I think that improv in general has been like an invaluable skill to professional wrestling, and it is like one of my favorite parts about wrestling. Like, don't get me wrong, I like to have a plan for the sake of safety, but if I could go out there and just like improv like the whole match, that'd be cool, but it would also,
and you can also like,
just for the sake of like I say, for the sake of like safety, I wouldn't want to do that with.
Yeah, but I feel like once you get to know certain people though, and you're in the ring with a lot of people, and you kind of get to get some more experience, and there's people that you've worked a lot and stuff like that. You can get more comfortable and plan less stuff because you kind of know the person and you trust them and you know their moveset, they know your moveset, and
Yeah.
yeah. So it kind of depends on the circumstance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you do
but
that spot we did in, you know, last week in Calgary or whatever.
yeah,
you know.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I hear
For
you.
sure.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, I've been fortunate enough, I think, to have a good variety of opponents. Can you say the same thing? Like you have definitely been able to face off against a number of different people, eh?
Absolutely, yeah, and like you learn different things from everybody and different styles or I've been in matches where everything like you said has been planned out and there's a lot of crazy spots and stuff like that, and I've also been in matches where the craziest thing I've taken was like a suplex or something,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to kind of work with different people and understand different styles and how different people work and I think it's a blessing, and I'm very glad that I've been able to be in the ring with various types of people in business, because I guess when you're just kind of narrow-minded and you're kind of doing the same type of match that you think is right, or the same type of match that you think is wrestling or something like that, then you really don't get to learn anything, and you really just kind of repeating stuff, and that's when the fun goes away. The fun is being able to learn stuff, and once you stop learning, then there's kind of no point in engaging in it, and so yeah.
Well, I mean, you don't want your match to be the same every time, you know. So like,
Yeah.
you got to keep learning so you can learn how to do new moves, and so you can learn how to safely have other people do moves on you. You know, like you're wrestling. Like maybe the Canadian Goose has like his 5 moves of doom or whatever. But like I don't wrestle the same guy every night, you know, so I need to know how to wrestle the other people and incorporate that stuff. And then, maybe I have 5 moves, but I have 3 or 4 different ways to get into each one of them, like, and that's only learned through like training.
Absolutely, yeah, and being able, yeah, I think the worst part is when you kind of have like a good move set, or you have like good moves or a good plan or something, and then you realize that, oh, this might not actually work with this person, whether it's due to like maybe the way they work or their size or all of that. Like everybody's different, so
Yeah.
if you can find a way to kind of keep the same things you're doing, but like you said, go have different transitions, or get into a different way, or pull it off in a different way. It kind of makes it stay fresh, I guess, and it's
Yeah.
not the same bland, not necessarily bland, but same thing that you're doing with other people, and makes it kind of exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I would think. I mean, I don't want to just spend the whole podcast talking about my moveset or whatever, but like most of my moves are stuff I can do on majority of people anyway. Like there's 1 or 2 that I wouldn't want to do on anyone that's real heavy and stuff, and that's more so for their safety rather than mine. Like I don't want to lift anyone up that I can't make sure I'm not going to drop them accidentally, you know? Like if
Yeah,
I'm going to
for sure.
lift somebody up, I want to make sure that I can carry them until I'm ready to put them down, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. And safety is it's an important, one of the most important things, and stay safe is always the thing. So, find that happy balance where you can stay safe and also make something look really cool and make it look devastating, then you're kind of in the sweet spot. But it doesn't work for everybody. Like you said, like I've had stuff that I wanted to do with people that I just realized that I thought I could do beforehand, and then I realized it just doesn't work. And being able to adapt makes it so that, you're not stuck with nothing. So,
Yeah. Have you ever had to refuse anything?
not really. I don't like. I don't think I've ever encountered anybody who had a move that was insane. I don't know. Have you ever had to refuse like any big moves or anything?
I don't think I've ever outright refused things, but there's things
Okay.
where I was definitely like the person could tell I was trepidatious about it.
Okay.
Where they could tell, oh, he will do it, but he's scared. So maybe let's just not do it, you know?
Yeah.
So like I think because
maybe there was
KB6
yeah, go
wanted
for
to
it.
give me his KB6 six drop or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
he described it to me, and I just like was like, oh, it sounds rough, but we can do it. And he was like, oh no, if you don't feel comfortable, I was like, yo, okay, cool, let's do something else then. Like
Yeah, I think for me, like, there's been some times where like maybe somebody would suggest a move, and I'll be like, okay, maybe like let's see how it would we would pull it off. So then we try, and then we realize, oh, mate, it doesn't work, for whatever reason.
Mhm.
So I think for me, I always if I ever hesitant about something, I'm always okay. Let's go up and maybe try it, and then get up for it and see how comfortable we feel. So I wouldn't necessarily like outright just like refuse it, but like we'll see how it works, and if it logistically doesn't go through. Like I'll give you like a little thing. So like the other day, me and Danny were going over some stuff, and we were gonna do like a suplex onto the apron, and then so I get up for it, and he hooks me, and then we like look at each other. We're like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. So it's just one of those things where we just transitioned and did something else. So there's a lot of times where you plan something and you think it's gonna work out, and then you realize just maybe logistically speaking, it just isn't gonna work. So it
Yeah,
happens. So.
maybe for the sake of walking for the next 4 days, this doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
Maybe I want to get up tomorrow and then be able to go to the bathroom and not have to crawl there. So
yeah, 100%.
yeah, for sure.
I hear you.
Yeah.
For sure, I'm very stoked for all the wrestling that's been going on. I know that Steven has just recently announced the remainder of the dates for the year, and that the last date is going to be the December the 18th. And I'm hoping that by then I will be cleared to compete again. So,
Yeah, because you get hurt, didn't you?
yeah, I've been dealing with this like knee thing going on in my left knee, and I went to the doctor about it when it first happened. It was about a month ago, and he told me it was just like sprained knee, right? And it's still been bothering me, so I called the other doctor, and she said, oh, it didn't sound like a sprained knee to her. She was like, oh, it sounds like a meniscus injury to me. So they sent me for ultrasounds or whatever, and I'm still waiting to find out what the results of that is. But once we figure it out, it is something like that I'll be able to recover from. It's just how long
Absolutely.
and how do I work towards that, So
Yeah, absolutely. And
then,
taking care of your health is kind of the most important thing, and being able. Glad that you kind of caught that early, because I took yourself off and gave yourself some time to heal and stuff like that. Because the worst things, you don't want it to get even worse than it was. So
I didn't is that was part of the issue. Is I worked through it for I had like 3 or 4 matches with it, which I felt real bad. Like Danny Duggan came through with CWE, and I injured it on the Wednesday, and they were had me booked for Friday, and so I didn't want to balk out on him like the day before because I had a hurt leg. Because when I wrestled Danny, he had a torn quad, right? So, but I did definitely message him and warn him that, hey, like, I'm pretty immobile here. Like, I can't really jump or run or, these sort of things. And
all the things we need for wrestling.
yeah, and he was just like, oh, don't worry about it. Come anyway, and we'll take care of you. And sure enough, they did. And I did a little bit of running and stuff, because once you get the adrenaline pumping in you and stuff, right, like, it does go, but like it was very iffy and touchy, and I was really like every time I wrestled, I was just petrified I was gonna hurt it. And then my last match, I shot metal off the ropes to take a tackle, and I kind of like tripped on my leg, and then I ended up falling down to one knee, and I came back up to take the tackle, and when he tackled me, I just like jarred me real bad, and I smashed the back of my head into the mat, and so I got a concussion from that because like I didn't remember what was going on or anything, right? So yeah. So now I've just decided that I'm just gonna make sure that this whole knee thing and head thing gets well and cleared up before I come back and wrestle again, because like it's not worth it to risk any further injury.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not worth it at all. So, yeah, best of luck, man. Try to get speedy recovery, and hopefully see you in there soon. So,
Yeah, and it does,
yeah.
like, it sucks to have to, like, mention that personal stuff on here, but I think
No,
people
but
are probably going to be wondering why I haven't been wrestling and stuff. But
yeah,
I might get, knocked down fairly often, and I've had to struggle with my fair share of injuries, but I've come back every time, and there's always going to be one more
absolutely,
comeback than there is going to be injuries. So
absolutely, yeah. And I
let's
mean, it's a part
look
of
forward
wrestling
to
as well,
that.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all get hurt, we all get injured, and that's the name of the game. But the important thing is, like you said, is to come back up and come back better than you were before, and also just be aware as well that your health is number one. It's more important than anything else. So,
Yeah.
hmm
And I like I say, I do love it though. Like I'm looking forward to it all the time. Like, I'm
absolutely, yeah,
constantly like thinking about it, and it stews in
yeah,
my mind very often.
absolutely,
Anyway,
yeah.
Ty, we have been talking for nearly an hour now. So I just wanted to get your social media information. Where can people follow you? What are your
hmm
upcoming dates that you might be booked for? And
hmm
let us know.
Cool. Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram. It's at t.y.jackson. I recently changed it. I had royalty in my name before, and then as soon as I sent KB6 to Mexico, I was like, royalty's dead. So I killed it.
Signed up
So
for a
yeah,
new new Instagram, eh?
not a new Instagram, but changed the handle.
Oh, okay. So
To
all your
yeah, so
your former followers are still with you and
yeah,
stuff. Okay, so
everything's the same. Yeah, just a change of the name. So yeah, so t.y.jackson at Instagram, and then Twitter's the same thing, just t_y_Jackson. But yeah, you'll find me on probably most of the RCW shows here in Edmonton as well. The odd in Calgary. And anytime we go to any of these out of town shows around the area, I'll be on there as well too. So that's
yeah.
kind of my plan there going into the end of the year. So
Are you gonna go check out the Monday Night Raw?
yeah.
They're gonna do a like a Raw taping in Edmonton.
Yeah, they are doing that in January. Yeah, so I will be checking that out as well. So,
Yeah.
it's been a while. I think I remember going to the last Raw that came here, like 2011. I think it was.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was 11 years old at the time. Insane. But I remember going to that Raw there, and I think that was the one where like they threw the. I don't know if you remember it, but like they threw the shirt back. Like Cena threw the shirt and they threw it back, and then Cena threw it again. They threw it back, and
I remember that
it
happening at
was
the ECW show.
yeah, yeah, and they did it again here. I guess
Do
Edmonton
you know
crowd just
what any
decided.
of like the matches were?
I think it was. It had to be maybe. I think it was Cena versus Punk. I guess as one of the main events.
Oh,
And I think Del Rio was the champ at the time. So that was kind of like in the middle of that Punk feud
yeah.
he had
That wouldn't be too shabby.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think the
But
last
yeah,
Monday Night Raw I went to was the one where Stone Cold Steve Austin announced that. Pardon me. Stone Cold Steve Austin announced that the main event at SummerSlam was going to be an Elimination Chamber match, and
I
it
see.
was the one that Triple H went on to uh, uh, win. He beat Goldberg at the very end.
Uh,
But like, it was a pretty
yeah,
dope Raw. Like I remember, I
yeah.
think Goldberg wrestled Ric Flair
hmm
like on the Raw taping, so there was some cool stuff. And RVD and Jericho, I think, wrestled. So,
hmm Yeah,
um,
it's always cool checking out those live
but it was
shows.
a
It's a
long
way
time
different
ago.
experience.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Yeah,
been to a couple of like WWE non-televised things
like
since then.
the live events. Yeah,
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 and they're always a good time. I'm
yeah.
looking forward to. I'm hoping I can acquire some tickets or whatnot and check it out. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Alrighty, Ty, it's been good talking to you, and hopefully one of these days we'll get to wrestle, but that won't result in me having to leave the promotion.
I guess the dangerous part, I guess. But yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Kyle. I appreciate it.
Alrighty, take it easy, buddy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, bye bye.